Hi, I'm Peoria Mayor Cathy Carlat. Thanks for joining me for another edition of Peoria Pulse. If there is anything we know to be true by watching the news these days, it's that emergencies come in all forms, strike at all hours, and show no mercy. Even so, it is comforting to know that in Peoria and across our nation, there are courageous men and women who are willing to put their lives on the line as our first responders in times of need. Today, I'm happy to be joined by Peoria Fire Medical Chief Bobby Reese and Deputy Chief Gary Barnard, here to talk about their team's never-ending desire to improve, including several tips to help protect our families. Chief Reese, Deputy Chief Barnard, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for having us.
I am so happy to be here today, and it wasn't that long ago, actually earlier this year, when we stood in this very garage and we had the historic ribbon cutting for our very first ambulance service in the city of Peoria. Can you tell me a little bit about that, how that's going?
Sure, Mayor. I was excited then, I'm excited now. Is February we started our first ambulance on the streets, and then in March we started the second, and it's doing everything we said we were going to do. Is that we set it up as a service model opposed to the private sector that has a business or profit model. And so all that goes into providing the highest level of professional service to our citizens in Peoria. For example, is we said that we would have paramedics on our rescues, which we do, and that differs from the private sector because they usually have basic life support EMTs on their ambulances. That does several things for us, is that they're sworn personnel, so we can switch them around anywhere in the system that we need to and keep them from getting any kind of burnout in the system from just being in the ambulance service, in the ambulance system. And also if we get a fire call or hazard materials called, is that they can join in and be part of that system. The third thing that happens is that with the private sector is that we would use somebody from our trucks to go into the ambulance with a patient, the paramedic, all the way to the hospital, and then we would take our fire engine out of service to go pick up our medic. Here is that we don't have to do that. In addition to that is we keep the continuity of care. What I mean by that is the first medic that starts the medical care of the patient can swap with the medic on the ambulance so that that person goes all the way to the hospital and continues that care all the way through.
Wow, so this is completely citizen-centric.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's all about giving them better care. And what about response times? Are we able to control that a little bit better now?
Yes, is that since we're in a geographic area, we try to keep those response times to just like the fire truck would. And it also stays in Peoria. Our ambulance, opposed to the private sector, well, they'll service several cities with an ambulance.
Yeah, this is such a great relief to me because I know when you have a for-profit system, they are talking about doing what's best for them.
Absolutely.
Now we can talk about doing what's best for our citizens.
Correct.
And that's the way it should be. I'm really, really proud of this service. And we also have another new vehicle on the streets this year, the alternative response vehicle. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit about that. That vehicle is a two-person vehicle, a paramedic and an EMT on there. And they're going to respond to the lower acuity calls, stuff we don't need a full four-person company where you need a bunch of paramedics. Somebody maybe has fallen down, just need help getting up, or has a cut finger. But the paramedic on the truck also has a full set of equipment that if it does turn into a life emergency, that they can start treatment and then call for the fire engine to help out. So it takes the big engine, usually would go on it, and now this low acuity vehicle will go, which will leave the big engine available for bigger calls.
Yeah, so a much more efficient use of personnel,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And customized to what our citizens need.
Correct.
That's really smart, isn't it?
We think so.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, speaking of smart, I know that some of our firefighters have received some amazing awards this year. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
We have one individual who's going to get the National Medal of Valor Award from the President of the United States, Stephen Gunn, an engineer at Station 193, responded to a fire Was notified that there was a victim inside the fire, and without thinking, pretty much went in and tried to make the rescue. Did get the victim out of the burning residence, and he was totally engulfed in flames for about 30 seconds. They happened to catch that on a body cam from one of the police officers, so you could see the valiant effort that he made to save this resident. So because of that, he's getting recognized at a national level for that.
Wow, that is incredible. So the president is going to pin on him.
Correct, and the president or the vice president, one of the two is ever available.
Boy, that is wonderful. Peoria on a national stage.
We're very proud of him. Of all our folks, we're very proud of him.
And I also went to an awards banquet for the 100 Club, which represents our first responders, and he was given an award that night too. What was that?
Yes, he was the Firefighter of the Year for the 100 Club.
Firefighter of the Year.
Which was interesting because the police department got the Police Officer of the Year, and they give 2 awards out, and Peoria received both of those that night.
The first time in the history of the 100 Club, they gave both of those awards to officers in the same city.
Correct.
Incredible, incredible. I was very, very proud that night.
Yeah, as were we.
Well, I know that our firefighters go to places outside of our borders, our city borders. They've got a lot of expertise and they can help in other places. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
I can elaborate on that a little bit. So you have an all-hazards fire department here in the city of Peoria. Besides the 12-13 week academy that they go to, we also have firefighters specially trained in hazmat, specially trained in TRT, and specially trained as rescue swimmer and boat operators for Lake Pleasant. Along with that, we have a group that are specially trained in wildland fires, and since 2004, since the Rodeo Chetasky fire, we've been asked to respond outside our city and inside Arizona and outside Arizona to respond to wildland fires. And that's kind of morphed into an all hazards approach where we're taking these qualified individuals to all hazards events like the flooding in Sedona. We had some folks up there to assist with the recovery efforts there. We sent some folks to Hurricane Sandy back in New York back in the day, and most recently was Hurricane Harvey over in Texas. We had 6 individuals go over there to help.
So they help with the wildland fires, they help with other emergencies, and then they help organize emergency operations. Is that correct?
Absolutely, and that's the key. What we like about it is we bring that knowledge back to Peoria. So if anything happens here, we have some folks that have some knowledge on how to set up the Emergency Operations Center and coordinate all those events that need to be done to mitigate whatever the event is.
Yeah, that's an incredible asset for our citizens that I think probably a lot of our citizens aren't aware of. If there is an emergency, a pandemic, some national emergency, or even some statewide or city emergency, our first responders, our Peoria Fire Medical Department, can assist in making sure that our citizens are safe no matter what the emergency is.
Yeah. Anytime somebody calls 911, you're going to get the police department and the fire department are going to be the first ones there. No matter how big the event gets, we'll be the first ones there to try and start mitigating.
And they're going to know what to do.
Absolutely.
Thank goodness. We are very, very thankful for that. And so one more thing, I just have to ask you, since this is Fire Prevention Month, can you talk to me a little bit about Fire Prevention Month?
Sure. So this year's theme for fire prevention under the National Fire Protection Agency is have a plan, escape plan 2 ways out of every room. And
2 ways out of every room?
2 ways out of every room. Because most people don't understand that once the alarm goes off, the smoke alarm goes off in the middle of the night, which by the way, most deaths occur in the middle of the night, is from the time the smoke detector goes off is you have less than 2 minutes to escape out of a house or resident. And so what we're encouraging our folks to do is sit down with your kids, or even if you have adults, is that plan 2 ways out, usually out of a window or out of the front room, wherever it's necessary, but plan it out before it happens, and then have a safe place where everybody can meet up. And also, we always encourage people during this time of year to check their smoke detectors and change their batteries out. We're not, as a population, we're not very good at doing that. So this will save lives.
Wow, that's good information to know, and pretty soon we're going to be talking about Christmas trees, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Well, I would just like to thank you both for everything that you do. It is just tremendous for us to know that we can sit back and relax a little bit, knowing that you guys have all of the knowledge that you need to keep us safe.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your support.
Thank you so much. Although we call them firefighters, the reality is that members of Peoria's Fire Medical Department are responsible for controlling fire and much more. Their meaningful work is innovative, widespread, and nationally recognized. And even though we can't predict the next emergency, I hope residents find reassurance in knowing that the Peoria Fire Medical Team is ready to provide each of us and our loved ones with the best care possible in any situation. Thank you for joining me today for another edition of Peoria Pulse.